The morning in Deboche was cold. I was bundled up all the way while waiting on the porch on Hotel Good Luck. Fortunately, by the time we were on the trail, the sun had reached the bottom of the little valley. It's got to be tricky herding goats and yaks on a cliff face. The trail was crowded on this day, but I guess I found it less annoying when the trail was pretty flat. Everyone was in high spirits. I think it was hitting us that we were just 3 days away from making it to base camp. You start to notice that a lot of the guest house names start to repeat after a while. We stopped for tea in Dingboche. We saw the cutest kid on horseback. Here's a solar stove in operation. An old dog followed us for a while. I was walking ahead of the crew with Sonam when he decided I needed a hero shot, so he took this, but the mountains behind me stole the show. Flags and helicopters. Surin told me this is how they store potatoes for later on. We arrived in Dingboche about 2:30 and we were done for the day. Dingboche is at 14,500 feet. Despite taking Diamox since Namche Bazaar, I was having symptoms similar to those on the Annapurna circuit. I lost my appetite. Wish I had gone and explored Dingboche that afternoon. I was still feeling pretty good, but I knew we had another acclimatization day the next day. I guess I figured I would have time to explore then. At dinner, I had to stifle gagging while I forced myself to eat. That wasn't surprising since this also happened on the Annapurna circuit. The dining hall was lit only with candlelight. I irrationally felt that the candles were using up all the oxygen. My O2 sats were not good as they were on the circuit. As I waited for our nightly briefing from Surin, the room got more and more stifling. I felt so hot suddenly. I thought I was going to throw up. Right in the middle of the briefing, I had to rush out. The cool air outside the dining hall helped, but I still felt bad. Surin came out to check on me before I went back to my room. I would not emerge from the room until the next evening. I got real familiar with these four walls and the attached toilet. Unfortunately, the attached toilet didn't have a sink. The closest sink was 2 stories down and in a different building. I'm sure I kept Paul up all night with my constant trips to the attached toilet. I picked up something foodborne. By the next night, I had eliminated everything from my system. At sunset the next night, I felt well enough to capture these time lapses. At dinner, where I only ate soup, we celebrated Ume Hani's and Sonam's birthdays. Ume Hani turned 17 and Sonam turned 18 on this day. I loved hearing the stories of everybody's acclimatization hike and what they discovered while exploring Dingboche. A German bakery in the village made the beautiful cake. The next day I felt good enough to hike, which is good, or I would have been left behind and picked up by the next Himalayan Wonders trek to come through. I did not have the vim and vigor of previous days. I wasn't up front with Sonam all the time. We only had about 7 miles to hike, and we gained about 1,500 feet of elevation. Hiking up the Khumbu Valley was epic. Some of the helicopters flew really close. I think they were intentionally buzzing us. I wasn't much for eating, but it was nice to take a long break at lunch at the Yak Lodge, and the views were awesome. We stopped at this incredible viewpoint of Amadablam It was amazing to think people were actively trying to summit this peak while we were taking these pictures. Thank goodness for porters. Just a half hour after leaving this viewpoint, we climbed to the top of a pass, Thukla. On top of the pass is a memorial called Shukpi Lara. Each stone pile, some very elaborate, are dedicated to someone who had lost their lives attempting to scale one of these towering heights all around us. There was just 45 minutes of walking after our somber visit to Shukpi Lara to get to our guest house in Lobuche. Dalbot with eggs, please. It was easy on the stomach. We got our pulse ox checked one more time. Tomorrow is base camp.